Today we're with local business news and Michael Lope from Sullivan Sons Funeral Home, Royal Oak and Utica. And I wanted to chat with you, starting out with the last 3 months have been crazy with pandemic. How has the funeral business changed in 90 days?
The biggest thing for us, though, is unfortunately trying to navigate through what we're being allowed to do. It's not so much that it's us not allowing things, it's more the state saying to us or the CDC saying, you can only have 10 people here, 10 people there. And for us, I think that's been the biggest change is that, we're accustomed to welcoming people into our facilities and going into churches and halls and having large crowds, not always, but in the majority of the cases, having large crowds and welcoming them into the funeral home. But unfortunately, right now, we're really being kept to that 10-person limit and trying to keep with it as best as we possibly can. So that's the biggest one, I think.
Should a pandemic like this keep funerals, changed, or can we go back to something more traditional and for a lot of people more comforting?
We hope that as soon as we get the okay, that people will want to come back into the funeral home. But we certainly understand that it's that these are personal preferences and personal decisions for people. So we don't know exactly how it will all play out. And we're trying our best to just make sure that all of the options are available to people, still giving them those options of sort of keeping it small or maybe pushing something into a digital format. But our feeling is that, or our hope is that we'll be able to allow people to do exactly what they've done traditionally in the past.
Yeah, personally, my sister-in-law passed during the pandemic, and it's one of those things like how you can't hug people,
Right.
you can't comfort anybody, and so the process of mourning has changed tremendously. And have you noticed like people struggling more, or is it just something that they're dealing with, or how is that like the mental part of it?
No, I think you're absolutely right. In fact, there are some pretty renowned grief therapists that have commented on this and taken notice of it and tried to help funeral directors to be able to help families better. But you're absolutely right. I think just one of the biggest things in grief is having community and having people to be able to share and to celebrate. We've talked a lot, and as I mentioned, there's been a change in funeral service over the last few years. And one of the biggest things for us is going from the traditional service more to a celebration of life and being able to celebrate that person. And when we can't do that in a setting where we're having comfort and having hugging and sharing of stories, it definitely, without a doubt, does impact the grieving process. So,
and how do you see the Sullivan and Sons going forward? Are you planning for future changes, or are you just kind of rolling with it right now and seeing what comes, and then you know adjusting to that, or how do you plan for something like this?
Well, you can't. It's just like everybody else. I think for us, it's the same as everybody. It's a day by day thing. We literally have been communicating with our management and our ownership on a day-to-day basis, seeing what fits for our families, what works for our families, what we're able to offer to them, and what we're not able to offer to them. And even like it might be this week we're talking with a family and saying, yeah, unfortunately we can only have 10 people in the building, but by next week it might be 100. So we certainly have plans and sort of a outline as to how we want to be dealing with things moving forward. And there are changes from the traditional in there that I think will be here forever. What you got to remember for us, of course, our business is trying to be able to give that information to families. But for the families, they're not as concerned with that. Their concern is they've just lost a loved one. And for us, our focus still has to be on that family Of course, there's a lot of external things going on, and we have to be aware of it and up to date and be able to inform them on what they can and cannot do.
And last time you and I chatted, when we wrote the article, you talked about the community presence that Sullivan and Sons has had over the last more than 100 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, how do you guys feel about getting back into that? Are you excited? Do you have plans? Can you just not wait to get back into that? And, you're smiling already.
We have a lot of plans, and we want to get back in the community because for us, that's huge. We've always relied on being part of the community and making sure that we can help people. But again, we want to do it so that we're not putting our staff or our family into harm's way. But we absolutely want to make sure we're getting back into it as soon as possible because that's a big deal for us. We like doing it. So.
Okay. And just tell our watchers here how they can get a hold of you should they need, some guidance if they have a tragedy or, if they just need somewhere to maybe even reach out, say, look, I'm having a hard time dealing with my grief. Do you know where I can go?
We've basically given them three options. We can do a lot of this digitally. So if people want to talk to us via email or even text message, believe it or not, we've been doing a ton of texting through this whole thing, which is kind of new for us. We're more of a meet face to face and talk on the telephone, but we've been doing a lot of texting. We've been doing a lot of emailing. Of course, our natural thing is we always invite people into our funeral home. We're okay with folks coming in here. We will be wearing masks if they want us to. We'll provide masks if they need them. But we always want to make sure we're available. So in person, email, text, over the telephone.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate your time and you being there for the community and being ready for when everything opens up.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. And obviously, as we talked about, we're always available. All the funeral directors that I know have had similar experiences, and all the funeral homes I think in our area. We're really blessed. We have a lot of great funeral homes in our area, so always reach out because we have resources for people. We have things that are available if they're looking for it, especially on the grief side. I just spoke to our grief counselor today, and they are opening up their group sessions again next week. So always reach out if anyone needs help from us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Good talking to you.